Sean and Zacchaeus Clint. And we're working on immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Sackheads Radio. Sackheads Radio.
The best late night conservative talk show in America. In America.
And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.
And welcome to the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, the 31st of August, 2016.
This is the last show.
In August.
I want to prepare everybody. This is the last show that we are ever going to broadcast within the month of August in the year 2016 ever. There will never be another show like this.
Yes.
Ever.
Ever.
So
no
this would make this a limited edition Sackheads show, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll make sure I mark that appropriately on the
Where is my logic
on the
faulty?
show. I
on
didn't say
this?
it was faulty. Did I argue?
No, but I'm
Okay.
I'm asking. I
Oh,
want
we're
to
getting defensive, so I'm assuming there must be fault hidden
No,
in there somewhere.
I'm not getting defensive.
Off to my left is the only man to come in first in the Groucho Marx lookalike contest, beating Groucho Marx himself.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Congratulations.
No, thank you. And that was a wonderful time that Christmas. I was 4.
It was.
And how did you know about this story? That's not something I remember telling you.
I saw that.
Sober.
I dug up some local microfiche on some newspapers.
Those are really, 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 really small little fish.
They are.
With little
They're
fiends.
Sean fish.
I'm pretty sure that's what we're worried about in the Delta, right? Is the microfiche?
The
Yeah, that's
microfiche.
There's
exactly
7 of them
what
left.
it is.
7. Sitting off to my right is the only man who, when he's not performing miracles on 42nd Street, is sitting right here in the SHR Media Studios.
Oddly enough, I get that reference. Just you wait till December, sir. We'll see who dropped a piece of coal in your stocking.
That's not coal. You know
That's right, it's not coal.
What's funny is
It's a lump, though.
my kids were looking through pictures from
Vegas?
from Freedom Fest, yeah, and they were like, "Oh, that's what Santa Claus does
He works with you
when he's not
guys.
the North Pole." And of course, I had to roll with it. I was like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, Santa.
Not only that, you had 2 Santa Clauses there.
it
And
was-
the short, dumpy one, and the tall one with hair.
I don't know if I would call the Underground Professor short, but hey, listen, if you choose to do that, Mark, that's fine. So, we thank you as always. Bloviatingzeppelin.net is the website. You have been a very active writer the last couple weeks, I have noticed. Been nonstop coming out of there.
It's a target-rich
Some
environment.
amazing articles coming out.
Holy moly.
Which is weird because we have nothing to talk about on tonight's show.
Yeah, it's been such a slow news week.
It's been-
once
yeah.
again.
Nothing going on.
So I don't even know what you've been writing about.
But it can't be worth anything.
It can't be
because
worth
there hasn't been anything going on.
That's not true. It can't be worth anything to our listeners, but I'm sure it's worth something to somebody.
My
And
mother.
off to my right, you're not escaping this. Do you remember the Weebles? So this is the one, if you remember the toys, the Weebles, they wobble but they don't fall down.
Ever.
Unless
I'm drunk.
Right. Sean was used as the model for that when Play School actually cast those characters.
Well,
so
you know, it's one of those things, it's always nice when your likeness is cloned, and appropriately so.
right. No, I'm not judging.
You know, the modeling for that was really tough, but after they got the clay sculpture done, it went pretty easy from there. So it was an honor, really.
It was great. Now it has been a while since we've introduced characters on our show. And there have been, for those of you who may not be listening in, or haven't missed some shows, we have a couple newer characters. We have Box Wine Girl, who typically makes an appearance with little giggles, huddled up in the corner, drunk. while listening to jackassery happen. And the other is the ambulance chaser.
Yes.
The ambulance chaser is really kind of a mystery to most people.
What about Kitten?
No, Kitten too, but the ambulance chaser we're talking about right now, because nobody knows who this guy is, right? He exists. I assure everybody that he exists. Sean, you're backing me up on this.
He does.
Yeah, and he's sometimes known as the ambulance chaser.
Somewhere in the city right now, there is somebody who is just struck by a vehicle.
And he's going to go hunt them down.
And he will be there to ensure that somebody gets hosed.
Somebody in the city, somebody has feigned to have been hit by a vehicle. And he is all over this case.
Somebody has tripped over a cracked sidewalk.
Somebody has tripped over a cracked sidewalk. And so the man is very, very intelligent, except for when it comes to politics or anything of substance. But other than that, the man is very, very intelligent.
When it comes to single-handedly changing the name and date of birth on somebody on a legal document to send it to another insurance company to get a flat-out payment, instead of, the fighting that should take place, they just pay him out and kill him out. You're right. I mean, that guy can change some names, something fierce, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I bet you he could 6, 7, 8, 9 dockets a day if he really wanted to put his heart into it. I mean, seriously. You think about how many people suffer from traumatic injuries that he can capitalize on.
No, you know what's weird is, like, literally, I met him for coffee about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And as soon, I took my first sip, right? And we're just there to BS. He's a great guy. And we're just there to BS. And he goes, hey, is that coffee too hot? Did you burn your lip? And I'm like, seriously, like, give it a rest, bud.
Like, dude, just dump it in your lap or we can go with this.
Right.
You're like, it's an iced coffee. He's like, yeah, frostbite.
Right. I'm like,
case has never been done before. It's never been
I'll do it. I'll break new ground.
I'm like, whoa, bud, we moving from, like, off the rack to, like, fitted suits? What are we trying to do here?
I'm glad he is a part of the show and the way that he is, because it makes me chuckle.
And the best part is, I hope he calls in one day, because it would be so much fun.
Oh, here's the thing. Have you ever seen, like, an animal get abused?
Yeah, and I was actually thinking about this, because here's, like, in court, like, there's rules, right? Like, you can get away with shenaniganry and, like, pull the wool over people's eyes, because you're trying to convince 12 people that, I mean, let's face it, right? They're not necessarily perhaps the cream of the crop. And, so somebody who went to law school, granted, even though he went to law school in Columbia, I think, and, it was like what? I think it's like a $12.50 fee, I think.
You're right.
For the
Got a
license.
JD out of Bogota, exactly.
Right, yeah. And so even though he went there, like, even it was a little bit of a step up. But here there's no rules. Like, we got prison rules going on here. And I don't know that the man could hang.
Right. Can he hang? I don't know. The important part is he thinks he can hang, and that's just damn adorable.
And what's funny is he is a cute, snuggly little guy.
He does realize, like, we're not like these insurance companies. We actually, like, we don't have this pot of money. We don't
have any money.
Right.
Which is perfect.
to just hand out to him. And our opinions are not like money where we'll just give into him a little bit in order to make him go away. Right, we're not insurance companies.
Right, and matter of fact, we don't want him to go away. Because that's entertainment.
It depends, really.
No.
And then, of course, you did mention...
Box Wine Girl.
Box Wine Girl, yes. Yeah. Yes, that's always... somebody mentioned to me, they were like, was there a kitten sneezing in the studio one night? Like, achoo! Achoo! And I said, I have no idea what the hell you're talking. And I went back and listened. I was like, no, it's box wine.
It's box wine.
Right. And he was like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, box wine was here. What's the big deal?
Right. So, and so here's what happened with that for our listeners that don't know. Box Wine Girl usually comes over with like a red Solo cup,
yes.
and her box of wine when she comes by and says hello. But we actually had a bottle, like a decent bottle, and she took a sip and started sneezing. So I don't know if she's allergic to good wine.
Right. Thunderbird, great stuff. Great stuff.
You take the cork out.
Oh, wait, that wasn't wine, that was whiskey? Is that what you're saying?
Damn.
You take the cork out, and she's holding a straw in her hand, and she was like, what's that thing? She's like, normally mine, you just push the little button in the front.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
we have a big
man.
show tonight.
We do have a big
Huge.
show.
Big show tonight. I want to say hi to our listeners. Thank you very much. Ambulance Chaser, we love you if you're listening. Thank you so much. Box Wine, we love you if you're listening.
Yeah, BW, we appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Not much happened this week.
Yeah,
No, it was
it's just
very
such
quiet.
a slow news
It was.
week. I don't even know.
Ridiculously quiet.
I don't know.
I don't know why you're here.
I really don't either. You know, it was one of those
What
things.
the hell?
Driving into the studio, I called Clinton. I was like, I don't know what we're going to be able to talk about. I don't know how we're going to cover 2 hours. Oh, yes, I do.
Look, and I want to start. I just
We
want
can do 2 hours on a wiener.
well, you've done 2
No,
hours
no,
on the
like
wiener.
you haven't done
But
it
we're talking
before.
about the top now, Sean. So, yeah, I've seen video of you doing 2 hours on a wiener.
Wait.
Yeah, I tried not to look, but it was like a train wreck.
Oh, you saw the
I was
eating
like, you're
contest?
actually going to fit that?
You did see the eating contest.
Eating was part of it. Yeah, no, eating was definitely part of it, Sean. Yeah, I was a little dismayed, but
Man.
whatever. Hey, I love you, brother. Look, so I have to get this out there. Our listeners know that I am a 49er fan.
Uh-oh.
I'm a 49er fan.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I am.
Oh, I knew.
And I am
It's made our love tough at times.
absolutely.
can imagine.
It's an NFC team.
I know.
It's an NFC team.
I know.
What's weird is we clash more over football and baseball when both of our teams are in the AL.
I know.
Anyways.
And regularly play each other.
Right. So, look, I am not a Colin Kaepernick fan. I thought
Neither are the 49ers.
and neither are the 49ers. Look, the man is very he has talent. There's a reason he got to the level he got. I mean, I'm not gonna deny him that.
So didn't
at
Milli
all.
Vanilli.
Well, no, because that wasn't really them, right? It's not like Colin Kaepernick had somebody else like throwing the football for him, right? Well,
actually.
we might have to review some film.
Yeah. Was that really Cap under there?
You know what? That might be a case that the ambulance chaser could take for us. Did Colin Kaepernick commit fraud? Although if they're on the same side of the issues, then he wouldn't take that case. Never mind. So I was so disappointed, and I'd like to get both of your takes on this. Now, I want to say this. I support Colin Kaepernick's First Amendment right to freedom of speech.
Absolutely.
I 100% support that. Do I believe that as a role model, as an NFL player, do I think that it was appropriate that he sat during the national anthem? Absolutely not. I don't think it was appropriate. I don't think it was a classy thing to do.
Nope.
I mean, look, I've been present at baseball games when they've played the Canadian national anthem.
Everyone stands.
Everyone stands and shows respect to that other
You
nation's
go back to the Olympics. Usain
flag.
Bolt, in the middle of a news interview, the American national anthem started playing, and he stopped the interviewer to turn to the flag and show respect. Not his country. He wasn't on the podium for that specific event. I don't think he raced, obviously, or he would have been on the podium. But even if it's not your national anthem, it's okay to show respect. So, like you said, he has the right to not stand up, but that doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. If he had protested right along and still stood up because he understands that the two aren't necessarily the same, then I would be a little bit more apt to hear his argument and his conversation. I may not like it,
right.
but I'll hear it. But the fact that he's become increasingly more and more Black Lives Matter militant on his social media,
And that's it.
such-
More militant.
Yes.
And that's, I think, where I have the issue. It's not that look, the man can
Do whatever he wants.
we don't have that view. I just thought that the display look, he has made it in this country. He has $140-something million contract and everything else. He has made it in this country. This country has provided him opportunity, and he has flourished. He may not like certain things this country has done. I think that he is ignorant in history because he says that flag represents slavery.
He has no idea.
Yeah, no idea, right? So let's look at this. Slavery started here under British rule. Has everybody freaking forgotten that?
Yes.
Let's hate the British flag. I'm okay with that. Right? If that's what started slavery here. When we declared our independence, statements were made within the Declaration of Independence that clearly outlined a way for the abolition of slavery and an ideal that all men are created equal. And even the founders disagreed on what that meant, a lot of it based on economics of certain geographic areas. But many of the founding fathers were conflicted by the fact that they owned slaves, yet still espoused these virtues of all men are created equal. George Washington being one of them. Thomas Jefferson another. Samuel Adams, anytime he had a slave gift, freed the slave.
Mm-hmm.
So there was certainly this pull at the time, but economically speaking, slavery was a mainstay. And folks, let's not forget who the first slaveholder here in the American colonies was. It was a black man.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first slave owner here in our colonies in this country. Well, before we were a country. So, starting with that document, and then even going to the Constitution, where slavery was a fight, and you get the 3/5 clause, not because they thought that slaves were 3/5 of a human being, but it was a compromise to limit the number of pro-slavery representatives and votes in Congress, because they were those seats were apportioned by census. So that's a compromise of census. Here, the southern states wanted slaves counted as a full person for purposes of census, so they can get more pro-slavery representatives. And the North's argument was, well, then they're people. And the South said, no, they're property. And the North's argument was, well, if they're property, then I can count this chair as as census. And the South said, well, no, that's a chair. That's not a person. And so that's where we get this 3/5 from. It was to limit the number of pro-slavery votes. And then with the Northwest Ordinance and so forth, the die was cast for slavery to be over, because you weren't going to have states coming in whose economy was dependent upon slavery. So it was our founders and the documents and the arguments and the discussions that were laid out from the very beginning of our country that ended slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Have we had our issues in this country?
Of course we have.
Of course we have. Have we come a long way?
I would
Do
agree.
we still have groups being wiped out with fire hoses, or do we still have segregated schools or forced segregation? Do we
Forced now?
Yeah, no, we don't. We have come such a long way, and it's because of the great nation we are, and it's because of the principles that were laid out 200 some odd years ago that we've become that. And so I think Colin Kaepernick is ignorant. I think that he's ignorant as to what our history is. I think he is misinformed. I think he has a flawed understanding of history. I think he's listening to the propaganda of whoever his influences are, his girlfriend or whoever she is.
DJ.
Yeah,
Dipshit
DJ
or whatever her name is.
DJ Jazzy. I don't know. But that's what I think of Colin Kaepernick, and that's where I lost respect for him a little bit as a man. Again, I support his right to have those views, but how he does that, to disrespect the flag and sit down, is something I fundamentally disagree with, because it's kind of like he needs to be bigger than that in his position. I think that professional athletes should be held to a higher standard because they do represent an example. Kind of like police officers are held to a higher standard.
Yep.
Right? Firefighters are held to a higher standard. These people are role models.
Well, and
They're
I
seen.
think more so because he's a public figure, right?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. He's a role model to younger kids. He's a public figure. And I understand the counter argument, right? Well, there's people that's actually that he's role modeling that for, that right to sit down. And yes, I agree he has that right to protest. But
I don't necessarily agree that his opinion is positive.
Right, and he's in the workplace.
Well, he is in the workplace,
and
he's paid.
He's
they
paid.
have a lot of rules.
Yep.
And more specifically, everyone freaked out about him not standing and why he didn't stand, but they didn't talk about who he actually insults by not standing. And one of the biggest ones are the people that have fought and given their lives for the freedoms we do have. Like you said, are we a perfect nation? Absolutely not. Does that mean that all is lost because it's not utopia? Utopia will never exist.
No.
I've talked about this time and again. People that are racist, believe it or not, have that right to be so. It's different when they act on it in a workplace or whatever. But we can't program that out of people. That hate like that is in people's hearts for whatever reason, right, wrong, or indifferent. It is there. Is it as prevalent now as it was 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and so on? Absolutely not. We have as a country matured greatly, and understanding that we made some mistakes in the past, and some of the ridiculous things that we can't even imagine in this day and age thinking, it has been gone, and it was worked out because of education, because of people actually talking to one another and realizing via Dr. King in a lot of ways, it's the content of the character, it's not the color of the skin. And that's gone a long way. And we have progressed as a country to realize that it is what's in people's hearts. It's not necessarily what's on the outside of them. Now, do I think people that are inherently racist are good people? Not all of them. I think there are some people who may have had bad situations that have led to some sort of discriminatory thoughts.
But we still disagree with those particular views.
Absolutely.
Somebody who's an outright racist,
absolutely,
we disagree with those
I have no right for that. I have no rights for them. No time for them, rather.
Right.
Does that mean... and, it's funny.
Well,
one of the arguments
views,
I was reading on Facebook the other night, and it was actually a relative of mine, and I won't burn him online on the air, but, he said, listen, I'm going to teach my kids to stand up during the national anthem because it's the right thing to do. He's like, I get mad when people don't take off their hat. It's the right thing to do. And then he went into defense mode of Colin Kaepernick. And essentially saying everyone that was mad at him for not standing up because he didn't do what everybody else did, in a way, or very Hitler-like in their thinking, that he should follow suit and do it. And I said, no. I didn't respond in text. I didn't even respond because I didn't want to go down that road and I didn't have time, and I'm going to do it now. It's actually the exact opposite.
Yep.
Nobody's saying, and if they are, they're wrong. Nobody's saying he should be forced to stand via government law.
Right.
And there's a big difference. Should the government pass a rule like that? Absolutely not. I don't think that you should have to.
You can't. It's
Right.
unconstitutional.
Right.
Right.
However, it's a respect issue. And the fact, if we did pass that law, that would be more Hitler-like, by the way, than not passing a law and having the option. To pass it and say you must stand would actually be more aligned with some sort of Hitler fascist regime, right? It's almost like having to have a picture of Kim Jong-un in your house in North Korea. However...
We're just saying he should have.
It's
the right thing to do.
Right.
Given
the respect for the people that have fallen for it, and the respect for the flag itself.
Yeah, both the military members that have died, the military members that serve now, the law enforcement officers that serve, that protect that,
firefighters,
everybody.
The
people in men and women in uniform, domestically and nationally, that serve.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of weird things going on with Kaepernick right now. I just think he's kind of a man who's torn apart in his life, perhaps. His career is fading. He's probably going to be cut from
You don't
the
have to
Niners.
smile.
I am smiling.
You don't have to smile when you say
But
that.
I like to remind everybody that if Colin Kaepernick wasn't blessed with his physical attributes, he probably would not have gotten into the college that he did. His family maybe would have put him through college somewhere because he appears to come from a very loving family. And his mother actually took exception to what he did on social media, saying that, I still love him, he's still my son, but I don't agree.
Right.
But odds are he could be digging a ditch right now for a living. But because we live in this great country where we have free enterprise that allows the NFL to be what it is and pay as much as they want to pay, and nobody's controlling that, he is going to be a millionaire for the rest of his life.
Hopefully.
As a result of of the freedoms of this country. Now, I put something on Facebook the other day that said a future conversation with Colin Kaepernick, where he said, hey, I was once almost a decent quarterback, blah, 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 blah. And I said, hey, that's all well and good, Cap, but I just want to talk to a manager. My fries are cold. I think that's going to be in the future because I see him going down the path of other athletes who waste his money on stupid things.
I hope not.
I see it coming
I
already.
hope- I
see
hope
it
not.
coming already.
I hope that's not the case.
I see it coming.
I don't like seeing athletes do that. I hope he doesn't go down that path.
I have one question. Is this tactical?
I was wondering that too.
Is this tactical?
Is it keeping him prevalent in the news and maybe getting him a shot at another?
News, right, but job. What happens if you're this? Who's the Niners coach now?
I forget
Kelly.
his name. Yeah, Kelly.
Okay. Let's say Colin doesn't have the job. He's still fighting for the job. I don't know who the number 2 or the number 3 are. Who's the backups?
Oh well, Blaine Gabbert, Colin Kaepernick are kind of the shot for 1 and 2. But even so, even if he gets cut, the Niners still have to pay him.
Right. Oh, that's certainly
Yeah, there's still a ton. I mean, there's still a ton. But you look at who his girlfriend is, and has he become more radicalized since he's been with her?
Yeah, more militant.
And the answer is absolutely.
I would suggest it is.
Yeah.
And
And-
I'm also suggesting that it's not beyond anybody that this is a ploy.
I don't know if it's a ploy.
Oh, I think it. I don't. I think on some level, but I don't think it's as intelligent as you're giving him credit for.
No, that
I
may be-
think he
that
knew
may
he
be
was
true.
going to make
Hey,
a splash.
Breaking news: the ambulance chaser just made a brilliant statement.
Oh, okay.
His stock may have gone up about 1 or 2 cents.
Well, I'm going to write this down.
Write down date and time.
Listener, ambulance chaser, go.
Kaepernick hates America.
Yeah,
I agree with him.
I think he does. And I think Kaepernick hates America like a lot of other people do through misguided notions, poor knowledge of history, and misunderstanding of reality and facts.
Here's the deal with Colin Kaepernick. I don't think there's anybody in here that would begrudge him the ability to say what he wants to say, the ability to sit or stand as he wishes.
Absolutely not.
Except contractually. Now, there are some contracts. For example, Jeff Fisher, coach of the new LA Rams. If you've been watching any of the HBO Hard Knocks series, like I have, Fisher says you're going to stand, your helmet's going to be in your left arm when the national anthem plays. There was another coach for another team on the AFC, on the East Coast, who used to say, if you don't want to stand for the national anthem, you don't have to stand for the national anthem. You're going to get fined $2,000 every time you decide that you're not going to do that, but you can sit down if you don't want to stand for the national anthem. The other thing is his stance informed?
No, but I just went off on a rant on that.
I know.
Absolutely not.
And
his stance is based in ignorance.
That's the exact point. If he had mentioned, let's say, specifics, then, okay, I can buy that. There are 2 specific situations where I can think of
30 seconds.
where things got bad for cops, and they were bad shootings. You want to be specific like that? Fine, go ahead.
Yeah, but nobody else is defending bad shoots.
But no,
You
but
can't
also
compare
wait,
those two.
Don't have the conversation about oppression in this country while you're wearing a T-shirt with Che Guevara and
And a Malcolm X beanie.
yeah, with and a Fidel Castro T-shirt, which he was wearing.
Right.
The
And you've got
Masters of
5
Oppression.
endorsements because you're so terribly oppressed.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely.
And the other thing too is for all the people who are mad at those of us who are mad at Kaepernick, you were the same people that ripped Tebow all those years ago because he would pray after a touchdown.
Yeah.
And how dare he do that on the field? And what right does he have to do that? And blah 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 blah.
He has the same right Colin Kaepernick has to sit.
Yeah, but that argument's not being had
Right.
anymore.
I'm not saying Colin Kaepernick doesn't have the right to sit.
No,
I'm
he
just
absolutely
saying,
does. It's just
Yep,
poor,
I'm just
poor-
saying it's in poor taste.
yeah, absolutely horrible taste.
Yep.
Just as we have the right to not go to the 49ers, not support him, not wish good things about him.
Well,
That's our
I'm not
right,
going to
too.
support Cap, but that doesn't mean if he's playing for my team that I'm going to hope the line opens up and he gets hurt.
Yeah, I
or
hope the
hit.
49ers
Not hurt,
lose.
not hurt, hit.
I do hope that happens.
I hope he gets hit.
We're
too.
up against a break.
Especially when they play the Dallas Cowboys. I hope the Dallas Cowboys, when they play the 49ers, if Cap is playing that game, I hope they wear their pro law enforcement stickers, just as a big, that we talked about last week on the show.
Yeah.
Just as a big fuck you to Kaepernick in particular,
That'd be
and
nice.
the NFL in general.
I agree.
Yep.
It probably won't happen, but I
No.
agree because Witten's probably too decent of a man.
Yeah.
Oh, we come back for break.
Lots more.
We have a lot.
Oh, my gosh.
We're going to let the wiener out of the pen.
Man, nothing.
We're going to let the wiener out of the bag.
All that more on the Sackheads Radio Show live on the SHR Media Network.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying cow for the stupid promo.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking, drinking, drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com. In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no.
The best late night conservative talk show in America, Sackheads Radio. And listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. But for those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Radio. Radio.
conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
you got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean.
Dude, I'm not saying cow for the stupid promo.
Sackhead Clint.
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
Also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking, drinking, drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Hey, it's Jersey Joe from Reefer of Common Sense, and we have moved to a new night and time. Every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on shrmedia.com, you will catch the Reefer of Common Sense uncensored, unfiltered, and only on shrmedia.com.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show. I'd like to thank the Gremlins from the Kremlins for screwing that whole, I don't know what the heck.
That was a great Looney Tunes episode. I caught that reference.
It was an amazing Looney Tune episode.
I liked Marvin the Martian.
Yes. We go through this on a regular basis, how many amazing Bugs Bunny and Looney Tunes there were.
Oh, Warner Brothers cartoons were the best. They were absolutely the best.
Yes. Have you seen... I'm gonna get in trouble right now on the air. Have you seen any of the really old Bugs Bunny ones that like stereotypical racial?
Oh, right. Some of the ones from the actual 40s. The ones when Bugs Bunny actually looked different. He was much rounder, had bigger ears, that kind of thing.
Yes.
Really classic.
There's the one episode with, I don't even know what tribe they were from, but he was supposedly in some parts of Africa, is what they set it up to be.
Uh-huh.
And it was so over the top.
Ridiculous. Or even the World War II ones.
Yes.
Where, Hirohito was like...
Yeah,
over the top, the round glasses.
I mean, you think my Kim Jong-un is bad?
Oh yeah, even the Hitler, the Germans were just ridiculous, over the top.
Yes,
stereotypical Germans.
It was craziness.
It was crazy. I'm a little offended that they portrayed white people that way.
But that's your right.
That's
right. It's your right to be offended. You don't have to sit and watch.
Hey, by the way, I want to know who wants to start a class action lawsuit with me.
Okay.
I brought this up before, but I want to bring it up again.
We know a lawyer.
We do know a lawyer, and this is kind of his type of case.
Yes.
It's right up his alley. So listen, I was in the mood for a snack the other day, and I went for a delicious snack treat of carameled popcorn and peanuts. And as I look at the front of said package,
used to be called caramel corn?
There's a white boy on the front, and underneath the picture of this white male was the term cracker, and his name is obviously Jack. Now, I have a Jack in my family,
who's probably
who is white
and very offended,
and I'm very offended by the fact that somebody would have a snack treat with a picture of a white person on the front and just a completely racist term, cracker, preceding the name of the boy who was obviously named Jack on the front of
Cracker.
this.
When will it ever end?
On the front of this snack
When's it
treat.
going to end? That's what I want to know.
I don't know, but why has nobody brought attention to this before? I mean... Could you imagine a snack pack, for example, with somebody with, say, a big sombrero on their head, and you called it Mexa Munchies? People would lose their mind.
Look at you have people getting mad that other people celebrate Cinco de Mayo in this country.
Right, that's what I mean. People would lose their mind.
Or a chihuahua that says, Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yes.
Even that, and that was as early as 2000, 2002. You think about how racist that was, right? If you use the standards that are set forth today.
You know, it's funny. You were saying that we're much more progressive now, last segment. I'm not so sure we are. Could you imagine trying to put All in the Family on TV right now?
But
yes, because I love that show.
It was a great show.
I love that show.
I don't think I don't think you could get away with it.
I say the fact that more in this country we're raised to believe in equality is when I say I didn't mean progressive. We have progressed in the sense that
yes, that's correct. That's what you said. We have progressed.
Right.
Yes.
Not progressive. And it's not just with minorities. I mean, obviously, women couldn't vote up until 1923.
Right.
You know, so
biggest mistake we ever made was not letting them vote sooner.
Ooh, box swine woman.
I said was not letting them vote sooner. Why do you guys always have to go and take this to somewhere where it doesn't need to be?
But you're right. There's some great shows that were on in the 70s. And actually, Rooster, who's not in the chat room tonight, but brought that up a lot on his show and on our show in the past, is All in the Family was an amazing show that had a lot of...
it was funny as hell.
Yes.
Archie Bunker was racist as hell.
Yep.
Some of his little daughter was stupid as hell.
And Meathead as well.
And Meathead, yes. I almost called it Moothead.
Who actually never recovered. He's still dumb when you hear him talk.
Yeah.
But you also had the flip side of that show, right? You had the Jeffersons.
Yes. Yep, and nobody had a problem with it.
Nobody had a problem with it. Right.
The Jeffersons was a friggin' riot.
Yes.
And the Jeffersons came from All in the Family.
Yes, and they were the other racists.
Right.
On the other side.
George was such an amazingly funny character that they gave a show, and it was a very successful show.
It was, and he was the black Archie Bunker.
Yeah, he absolutely was.
Yep.
And you also had on that show, I mean, just things that you couldn't believe, like you said. Archie was a very overt racist, but not because he was an evil spirit, versus more he called it as he saw it in his eyes.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yes.
Because he was the product of that
generation.
That generation, yep.
And you saw, I mean, Sammy Davis Jr. kissing him on the cheek in the picture.
That
might have
was
been one of the most
amazing.
amazing things on the face of the planet. And Carol O'Connor, bless his heart, was so good at that role.
He was fabulous.
And he was a great actor. He really was a great actor.
Yes.
But nobody thought he could pull off a comedic role like that and be believable, and he did both.
He was funny, though. There was a movie I saw with him, and it was a World War II movie, old black and white movie. John Wayne was a naval commander.
Yes. I know exactly which one.
Kirk Douglas.
Yes.
Was his CO.
There was somebody else. There was another big name
Mickey
in it.
from Rocky. What was his name?
Burgess Meredith.
Yes.
Burgess Meredith, the original
Penguin.
Penguin, thank you.
Great movie. What was the name of that movie?
Somebody will throw it in the chat room. Before we get into the Wiener topic, because we're covering race a little bit.
Or before Wiener gets into you.
But one of our, we know what we play, and I'm going to play it right now when our good friend Ken calls. I'm going to play it right here.
Hey, boys, look what I got here. Hey, where are the white women at? We ain't found shit.
The first part of that comes from an amazing movie called Blazing Saddles. Mel Brooks directed it and wrote it. It was one of the funniest and most unbelievable movies of all time. We talk about it all the time. You couldn't make that today.
I think we should make it in reverse. A white sheriff goes to like Compton.
The man, the actor who had the first line in that, "You who boys, look what I had here," was the great Gene Wilder.
Yep.
Politics, I don't necessarily jive with him on, but his comedic...
I see what you did there.
Thank you. His comedic skills were unbelievable. He was a great actor. His wife died early, SNL, Gilda Radner.
Gilda Radner died in 1989 of cancer.
An amazing talent in herself for comedic acting. And Gene Wilder, who was Willy Wonka.
Yep.
He was obviously in Blazing Saddles. Young Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein.
Him and the comedian Stir Crazy was another amazing Gene Wilder movie. Stir Crazy with Richard Pryor. And he died this week. I believe he was 83.
He was 83, exactly.
Suffered from Alzheimer's. And here's the amazing part about Gene Wilder, that a lot of people don't know how seriously he took his roles, as funny as they were. When he was setting up Willy Wonka, he knew he had to be over the top with him. He knew he had to be an almost unbelievable character. And when the children and the parents first meet Willy Wonka, he does the whole thing with the cane, where he falls, and he's walking with the cane as this little old man, and then the cane slips and he kind of falls, and then barrel rolls and jumps up. Gene Wilder held out for that to make it in, because he figured after he did something like that, nobody would ever believe anything that Willy Wonka said or did again, and it would all have to be proven. And it would sell the character that much more. And also, when he found out he has Alzheimer's, I believe it was his son who released this, he stopped going out in public because he didn't want any children who may have seen the original Willy Wonka to maybe see him when his Alzheimer's was affecting him the most and ruin the stigma of Willy Wonka. So when he was first diagnosed, he brought that to his family, who was, "You're taking care of me. Don't ever take me out in public when I'm really off, because I don't want to ruin that stigma." That's a man who's dedicated to a role and understands how much he could impact children, and what a big deal Willy Wonka is for children, because the original Willy Wonka was brilliant.
Oh, yeah. Better than the Johnny Depp.
Oh, the one with
had
Johnny
American.
Depp. That was terrible.
It was.
Yeah.
He's had some good roles, but how do you follow a role like that? When Gene Wilder did what he did with it.
It was amazing.
It's like Ghostbusters. How do you follow the original Ghostbusters? Who would even dare to try and do a remake of Ghostbusters?
Well, guess what? Ghostbusters tanked.
Yeah. Exactly.
Boy, I didn't see that one coming. Not at all.
Yeah, no.
Or, I hate to say it, Steve Martin trying to be Peter Sellers, the Pink Panther. I'm sorry, Steve Martin's good, but he's not Peter Sellers.
Well, and not in that role. Steve Martin has his amazing roles that he's done. One of my favorite movies of all time is The Jerk.
Father of the Bride.
Father of the Bride was good, but The Jerk, if you've never seen The Jerk with Steve Martin,
that was pretty good.
A comedic genius, absolutely. And
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, but his stand-up as well was out of control funny. But you're right, to try to be Peter Sellers when nobody else could be Peter Sellers, especially in the Pink Panther role. I thought you said your dog did not bite. That's not my dog. It was just, again, we have a tendency in this country to try to remake. You brought up Ghostbusters, right? Ghostbusters was this remake where it was all about belittling men,
girl power,
all this other stuff, and got so far away.
It was a leftish feminist propaganda film.
Well, Ben-Hur. The remake of Ben-Hur is out.
Yes, or coming out.
No, it's out.
Is it out?
Oh, is it out already?
It's out now. You know, guess what? There will never, ever be a stunt performed live.
Nope.
Like the stunt with the chariot race.
Yes.
Where the guy actually died.
In Ben-Hur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just won't happen. The guy that was on the horses is a guy named Yakima Canutt, and he was known for that. And I guarantee you that they didn't restage that again.
So somebody actually died in the original Ben-Hur, correct?
Yes, but
the guy who got rolled over by the chariot?
Yeah, you didn't see that in the final cut of the film. Well, there's like How the West Was Won from the 60s. There's a guy that there's a particular shot on the train where there's a bunch of logs on a flat car, and a particular stuntman lost his legs because the logs shifted and literally took his leg off on the flat car. That scene is still in there, but you don't see what happened with regard to that.
Well,
but you can't remake Ben-Hur.
I think this goes back to the grit of this country, though, and how back in the day, as early as the 70s, as late as the 70s, depending on what perspective you want to look at it, and a little bit into the 80s, there was a craft involved.
was.
people honed their craft.
And people still loved, and they still loved this country.
Absolutely.
Hollywood was still making they'd thank the men and women in the armed forces. Big letters at the end of the movie. We thank, or at the beginning. Not now, if they even thank them. Special
but
thanks.
It was
at all.
also what they put into it. The actors who were in these films put their heart and soul into these roles. You still see that occasionally with some actors, but a lot of them, they just show up, get paid, and go home. But I think that's kind of what this country has become, right? You still have some people that work really hard and are dedicated to being good Americans, and then you have other people that just want to show up and get paid and go home.
Kaepernick.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Obama loves the trappings. He likes the deference. He absolutely loves it. Not much interested in doing the job.
Right.
Not much interested
Loves
in
the fame.
listening to dissenting opinions.
Oh, he's looking to push an agenda. That's his interest. He was a community organizer. He's interested in pushing an agenda.
Well,
that's what better place to push it is from the
He's not
presidency.
interested in being president.
I think he's interested in being president in order to push his
But you look
social
at these other
justice
kids,
agenda,
but
not because he wants to serve, and that's the difference.
No, he's not interested in
But
serving.
you go back to a lot of these other kids, right? Though, $15 an hour at McDonald's.
Yeah.
It used to be those jobs were starting jobs to get you on your feet. It's like if I was a paper boy right now and I demand $15 an hour to be a paper boy 40 hours a week. All those different...
Yeah, you know what? I can get a machine to flip a hamburger.
And they're going to.
Guess what's coming?
What? Yep,
There
I don't have
are
to pay
kiosks out there already.
I don't have
I've
to pay
noticed.
that machine
In
retirement.
some restaurants,
Yes.
there are drink machines.
Yes.
Yep.
Where you punch exactly what it is that you want. And there are Burger Kings and some McDonald's that already have kiosks out in the lobby where you place your
Preload
order
everything.
right there.
But that's... so you start looking at great people, how our times have changed. And what had happened is the hippies in the 60s started to come in control in the late 70s, early 80s. And this theory...
They cut their hair.
Yeah.
They put on a suit.
Right. And they started going into the office space and started infiltrating. And all these different special interest groups started to pop up because there was no real struggle going on after the 70s, right? I mean, you look at... You already had the 60s go on and the civil rights movement and how that changed this country. And while a lot of hippies were a part of that, they then had the opportunity to become relevant, but they had no fight, no cause, so they got into political correctness. And when that started, it was the demise, and you see it if you watch movies and you look at who those actors were compared to the actors that are there now, and just the ridiculousness, their level of importance that they assert themselves in where they're not, is out of control.
Here's an interesting point. I was told this by two separate individuals that they're not millennials. What's the generation before a millennial?
Gen Xer.
There's Gen X, Gen Y.
Millennials.
And Gen Z is what they're on now.
Something before that. In any event.
Now they're on Gen Z. We just learned about that at Freedom Fest.
Yeah, we did learn about it.
That's true. The guy portrayed himself as a Gen Z.
I was like, World War Z? Are we to that point yet?
But I was told by a particular individual when I was... I'm part of the baby boomers. And I was told by a particular guy that I was working with at the time who was probably at least 20, 25 years younger than me. He says, guess what? It's your generation that screwed it up for my generation. And I thought about that, and I'd have to agree, all right, you know what? I'd have to say yes. And then he made another statement which I was immediately about to wring his neck, but then upon consideration, I'd like your guys' thoughts about that. And he said, guess what? Worse than that, it was the greatest generation that created you, and they're every bit as at fault.
Well, you know, there's some statement to be true with that, because there was the belief of, I want my kids to have a better life.
Yep.
That instead of better life, it's transitioned into easier life. And that isn't necessarily the best way to go. I do agree with that statement. Society started to do that, though. You had the schools becoming more involved with the children's morals and upbringings that way, starting in the 60s.
Yeah, but that's all part of that social control, social
right,
experiment,
but that really started to take hold. But you weren't having the fight. You had these World War II vets who came home from World War II, and then they were working around the clock. So you didn't necessarily have that ability to instill those morals at home as much as they could have. But I don't necessarily blame the entire generation. I blame the 60s, and I blame the whole social movement where LBJ essentially started to remove fathers from the home via a paycheck and welfare. That's where I believe that it really started to take off.
I would have to completely agree with that. Part of that was, not part of it. In my opinion, all of it was LBJ. He assumed the presidency in 1963 after November 22nd when Kennedy was assassinated. And he ran for president in 64, and then he ran for president again in 68. He was a one-termer, but during those 4 years, he was the one that increased Vietnam. But if you ever see on PBS a show called The American Experience about LBJ, it was an excellent, excellent show with great insight into him. He was a manipulator. He was an asshole.
Huge manipulator.
Of the first order. He was 6 feet 4 inches tall. And compared to everybody else that he would be near, he would use his physical height and presence to intimidate you as much as he possibly could. And the internet is rampant with photographs about that. But it was in the process of him trying to create the great society that you began to pay with regard. Basically, he created generational welfare.
Yes.
And when you begin to pay people to have the urban black male removed from a very once nuclear black family, that sent that was a death spiral that we have not yet been able to stop today.
Yeah, and it continues obviously outside of the black community. It's continued into a lot of
it's
different
endemic. It goes through very, very many strata of persons in life right now. And it's very sad because he started it in the process of trying to do what he thought was something good.
Well, I don't know if he thought it was something good or something to be able to control people easier.
I want to bring up a couple points here before I go. Once it was brought to my attention that LBJ did not run in 1968. That if elected, he would have potentially won.
No, he was a one-termer.
Yeah, he was a one-termer, so he did not run in 1968.
No, he did not.
Okay, I thought you said he did.
No, I said he was a one-termer.
Okay, you said he was a one-termer, but I thought he said a 68, and that was pointed out. And so we got clarification on that. The second thing is I disagree that it was Woodrow Wilson that started this all. I disagree with both of you. Or that it was LBJ. I think it was Woodrow Wilson.
I just said that in chat.
Did you? Okay,
well,
hang on.
Okay.
Because I know we're up against the break, and I want to get my thoughts in here also. So I disagree with LBJ. I'm glad you got that in chat. I don't follow chat, you know that. But Woodrow Wilson is the one that said it in 1912. He was giving a speech where he said basically, what is progress? Progress is a word that charms their ears, stirs their hearts, and he said that he wanted to therefore, quote, make the young gentlemen of the rising generation as unlike their fathers as possible. Woodrow Wilson is really the founder of the progressive movement. He's the reason why we got away from constitutional law and started on case law. It's the reason why Princeton University started going the way that Princeton University went. He was a big proponent of case law because then he could make those incremental changes to the Constitution and Declaration of Independence, which he outlined as his progressive campaign. And the way he did that is he wanted to use the university system in order to re-educate the young men of the upcoming generation, because if you make the next generation as unlike their fathers, then with every generation you're removing them incrementally away from original intent, from natural law, and the things that our country was founded on. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say
you can essentially erase history.
Or rewrite it, right? And so my suggestion is that it was Woodrow Wilson, which really kind of kicked off this whole thing. Probably, in my opinion, the worst president or the most evil president in terms of purposefully undermining the United States Constitution and implementing policies and procedures, and his propaganda campaign, which most people don't know this. If you look at his propagandist, Ed Bernays, who wrote a book, Propaganda, Goebbels used that book and that platform to run the propaganda of the Nazi Party. folks, contrary to popular belief, that came from the Woodrow Wilson administration.
Yep.
That wasn't thought up by the Nazi parties. So I'm going to say that Woodrow Wilson is really kind of the worst at this. And I mean, you look at who popped up under his administration, from Bernays, Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, who was the originator of eugenics.
Right.
She did not like the black population. Believed in
and
eugenics.
Hillary thinks she was a great person.
That's
So that's my hypothesis on that whole thing.
Well,
I
and
know we're up
FDR
against
made
a
some
break.
steps, and then it got to LGA, because I think it was FDR who said a chicken in every pot and a cap in every ass. I'm pretty sure that's what he said.
That's exactly what he said. Wilson, yes, I would agree. That's where it kicked off. Efficacy, I put it all on Johnson.
Oh, see, I think it's Woodrow Wilson with everything that he put in place and planted those seeds and watered them to let it grow to where they are. I think that allowed Johnson to accomplish certain things, but Woodrow Wilson was the architect.
And with that, he's going to put it all on the Johnson. When we come back, we'll probably put it all on the Wiener right here on the Sackheads Radio Show.
I want to really get to Trump.
Media Network.
Nice segue.
We can get to Trump.
I really want to get to Trump.
We only need like 3 dick jokes.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean,
Dude, I'm not saying cough for the stupid promo.
Sackhead Clint,
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking, drinking, drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Hey, it's Jersey Joe from Reefer of Common Sense, and we have moved to a new night and time. Every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on shrmedia.com, you will catch the Reefer of Common Sense uncensored, unfiltered, and only on shrmedia.com.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Sackheads Radio Show live in the SHR.
Did that get caught?
Yeah, well, no, yeah, you might have.
I didn't want to.
So, we're going to get into the election real quick.
Did you say the erection, or are we going to talk about Wiener? Is that what you said?
Dan Butch over at High Plains Pundit had the best title for an article when all this broke. And it said, Huma finally cuts off the wiener. And that was, of all the jokes that were made, that was by far, to me, the top of the line because it was like it was ripped right out of the Sackhead show. As we all know, Anthony the Wiener, nicknamed Carlos Danger at one point, was once again caught sexting some chick. She went public with it. Can't imagine why.
No, he accidentally posted it on the public part of his...
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. He outed himself. And then...
I see what you did there. Outed himself sexting. With his kid laying next to him. What a douchebag.
CPS is actually investigating now because of that. Huma Abedin, who is Hillary Clinton's personal right-hand man... immediately filed for separation. I said it's funny how Huma and Hillary both have the same taste in men.
Right.
It's weird, isn't it?
Right.
I'm not saying... listen, I don't care what people do behind... And I've said this time and again. You know, they're talking about, like, some general this week that got in trouble because he was having all these crazy sex parties. Whatever. I don't care what people do behind closed doors.
I want to see pictures of that.
But
unless if it involves oiled squirrels,
I still want to see pictures of that.
Plastic sheets and Wesson oil.
I still want to see pictures of that. Gerbils and TP tubes. Okay, I just want to see pictures. I'm not saying I want to partake.
So, needless to say, something that the Wiener family thought would go away just got.
They thought this thing with Wiener would never come up again.
Right, and now it's getting this. Saga is getting longer and harder than they ever expected.
I know, and the story is, if it keeps on much longer, it's going to get flaccid. It really is.
Well,
and this is one we could really beat to death.
Right, absolutely. And the fact that this went on longer than 4 hours is amazing.
Right.
Because you'd think this would just be like 30 seconds and out, and then, the media would take a nap for a few hours and try to rebuild its energy.
Right,
but
smoking a cigarette.
Yeah, exactly.
And
have a
Captain
drink.
Kangaroo.
Yeah. 4 to 6 maybe minutes, right?
It's true. And a box of Kleenex nearby.
But once again,
or
like
a bad
wet
sock. Your mother's socks.
So I'm just going to wrap this up because I know we have other things. But
it's a hard lesson.
It is a hard lesson for him to learn.
Yes. Yep.
And this is what happens when your fame kind of explodes all over yourself.
Right. And Wiener, just a tip.
Right.
Don't do this again.
Oh man! Now let's get back to the erection. So
election.
Yeah, the November erection.
The November erection.
Right.
No election.
That should have been his screen name.
The November erection. But making an Asian face.
Right.
I'm turning like I'm turning Japanese.
Now, if you were on the board properly, you'd be playing "I'm Turning Japanese" right now.
I really think so.
That's why you gotta plug that laptop in.
I know. I gotta get better about that.
I'm on a roll.
The problem is
screaming for that.
I'm usually laughing so hard I can't even think about going to a sound clip. Outstanding. Oh man, you want to talk about cocking up your own life? So let's move on officially to the election because this may take us through our next break. Let's start.
Oh my God, that was freaking hilarious.
Do you think that Bill Clinton just called him and like, dude, after the first time I told you how to get around all this, what's wrong with you? Like, come on, Anthony. You even have the last name, for God's sakes. I guarantee you. Guarantee you.
Was that God having a laugh when he was born?
I'll tell you right now. I think because of even the fact that this casts a little bit of a shadow on the Clinton election because of Huma Abedin is and just the connection that's there, if he got the Arkansas flu, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I don't think this cast.
I do.
You think so?
Yep, I think a lot of people because it's the company you keep, right?
Right.
And you look at Hillary and the company that she's kept in the past. You look at Huma, all the strange connections that they have with her. By the way, isn't it weird that both her and Obama have an Iranian personal advisor? But that's neither here nor there.
Right, and who's taken all the money from the Saudis?
Right.
Yeah.
That's strange.
Amazing.
Anyhow, moving right along. Let's go to the Trump camp first, because I think he's had the biggest week I think he's had since the RNC. And by biggest week, I mean today.
You think bigger than Wiener?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that his points will just pump right up.
Yeah.
And will this?
And he may just explode all over the
political atmosphere. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
Atmo.
I think for once
whereas Wiener's just kind of dripped, and he's just going to kind of
like a man opening a trench coat. He's kind of laying out there what he's got.
Yep.
And I mean that in a good way.
No, I don't. So, look, Trump went down to Mexico. He met with Enrique Peña Nieto, the president of Mexico. Do I have to say it? Do I have to pronounce it like that while I'm talking about it? I do?
Yeah.
I didn't remember what the FCC rules were, not that we have to abide by them. So, the El Presidente de Mexico invited both Donald Trump and Hill Dog down to Mexico to meet. He wanted to meet with both candidates, which, you know what, I think that's a great move on the Presidente's part.
I think so, too.
No, I really do. I mean, the guy's got a low approval rating in Mexico, but the fact that he's willing to, particularly with Trump being unfavorable among Hispanics, or Mexicans particularly, I think that it was actually a good move for him to extend that. I give him props for that.
And if he's truly as anti-Trump as he said he was at the beginning of all of this was a good way to try to sink Trump, get him to say a few things in an official press conference, get it out there.
And Vicente Fox, who's been very, very, the former Presidente de Mexico, has been very vocal anti-Trump. But look, so they had a meeting, and Trump immediately accepted, and Clinton declined. Or I think the president, El Presidente, said failed to respond, and still has not. I watched the news conference. I watched the president of Mexico speak. I watched Donald Trump speak, and for the first time, I hacked it. And look, I texted some folks there that I knew were not Trump supporters, and I said, hey, look, I'm not being political. I don't want to engage in political debate here, but please check this out. I mean, you know, we do things here on this show. We watch Obama speeches, we watch Hillary speeches. We check out the other side because we're interested, and we like to stay up on events. And when
that's what you do,
when they do something positive, we actually have given them props before. And when they do something stupid, which is most of the time, then we call them out. But this was, and we have not been overly affectionate towards Donald Trump on this show. But I had the first kind of like, whoa moment for this campaign for Donald Trump.
I was listening to his speech on the way over here tonight.
It was something, I'm talking, so his speech or the one when he met with the president, because he gave a press conference after he met with the president.
Mm-hmm.
The president, El Presidente, spoke, and Donald Trump spoke. And Donald Trump spoke. They were on stage together on the podiums together.
Yeah. This must have been the one after.
This is the one early, and then Trump gave another speech this evening. And the president of Mexico, first of all, and I made this comment earlier today, Donald Trump has a big personality when he's out, when he's in that apprentice role. He's big, he's obnoxious, he can do all these things. He has that showmanship about him. But the man runs a multi-billion-dollar company or companies, and he knows how to do business. Donald Trump did not get where he is today by being an asshole 100% of the time. I don't think.
No.
He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to engage. And I think that's what happened behind closed doors, because when the Mexican president came out and gave a speech, I mean, I was damn near expecting him to say, and we're paying for the fence. I mean, he said we're not paying for the fence. He came out, they're not paying for the fence, he says, after...
He's like, we're not paying for that fence, we're just going to build it.
We're just going to build it. Right. But it was bizarre, because he actually talked about the need for border security for both nations. And it's like, whoa, that's a major shift.
You make an interesting point, because what you just said right there is when people meet with him privately behind closed doors, they have another entirely different opinion of him.
Absolutely.
And I think that you're mentioning that, and the Mexican president, that just proved it. He met with black ministers.
Yep.
Black ministers, for God's sake, who came out saying, my God, that Trump, he's not a bad guy.
Seriously. Well, and so the Mexican president, he says, I'm sorry, Sean, to interrupt you, but I want to finish this thought. But he came out and said, border security for both nations is important. Whoa, what the fuck? Wait, who are you? Which is important, because I don't know the substance of the speech, obviously, but Trump said, hey, you're having problems on your southern border, and it's in our interest that you're secure, and it's in your interest that we're secure too. I think the president came out and said, hey, Mexican nationals that are in another country are my responsibility. And I thought, holy shit. Is that a segue for Donald Trump not saying we're going to fucking deport every single one of them, but maybe Mexican president, hey, we'd love to have you back?
Well,
and so I want to touch on, and I want to hold that thought, Sean. I'm sorry, but I want to get this out for comment for both parties.
I'll hold it like Wiener.
Thank you. So, and the president also talks about the need for trade and to be economically beneficial for both countries. Fast forward to Donald Trump. Donald Trump came out and he said, border security is our national right. Mexican people are beautiful people. He talked about, hey, I have businesses. I employ lots and lots of Mexican people, blah, blah, blah. But he also came out and said that we need a partnership with Mexico to keep manufacturing and wealth in our hemisphere. This is the first time, and I'm sure people may be able to go out and find where this has been mentioned before. This is the first time that I've heard an American president or a presidential candidate come out and say, it's not about jobs in America, it's about keeping wealth and industry in our hemisphere. And then he went on to say, it's in Mexico's interest, it's in America's interest to keep the jobs here, strong cooperation between both countries with strong border security to keep these things in our hemisphere, because China and Russia and these other countries are trying to pull it all to their hemisphere, and it's going to drive things away. Huge. That, to me, for Donald Trump, I was like holy shit.
Yeah. Well,
I have not heard the argument phrased in that way before. And the way he phrased that argument, knowing that the economy is a concern for many people, phrasing that argument to include Mexico as a secure, strong partner, even after the president of Mexico came and talked about border security, which Trump did also, was huge. And to me, that really kind of tipped off the crux of this argument. Hey, we need to secure our border because it's hurting our economy this way. We will help you secure your border. We help each other along these common borders. And Trump talked about strengthening NAFTA in front of the Mexican president because it has been so one-sided.
Right.
It's a 22-year-old agreement.
NAFTA for the Americans.
Strengthen for the Americans, but meaning it will be mutually beneficial to also keep wealth in the hemisphere, because NAFTA has weakened America. Wealth and industry has gone outside of our hemisphere, so by bringing it back to America, it will strengthen both nations in trade. Freaking brilliant.
Well, and
the man is brilliant, and so that's all I want to say. I want to thank you guys for letting me rant for a little bit about that, and I want to go ahead and turn it loose.
Well, I suspect that's one of the reasons that Nieto right now is not very popular.
Well,
Vicente Fox has come out and absolutely excoriated the United States. The guy that was after him, Felipe Calderon. Basically the same thing. Came out and said the United States, it's terrible, it's racist. Now you've got somebody that's actually making sense sitting in the presidency of Mexico. It is in both interests.
Absolutely.
Well, and we talk, first of all, I want to touch on Trump behind closed doors. As we've said, we've seen this before, and it makes you wonder what his approach is. Because if he goes in there and goes, hey, look at the poll numbers right now, odds are I might be the man in there. You can either work with us or against us. We'd rather work with you because we can actually be productive that way for both of us. Or I can work against you and try to keep as much of it here and watch you sink further. And, oh, by the way, all that military funding that we give you and equipment, all the other stuff, we'll have to really rethink that, because I don't know if you're able to maintain it in a professional and safe manner. And we saw what this last administration did with ISIS, right, and all the other American equipment that went to bad guys. We don't want that to happen anymore either. And you start hitting where we help Mexico, and you turn and you say, you want to be my friend. I don't want you to be my puppet. I want you to be my friend.
Right.
We want to work together. If Mexico was as safe and secure as Canada was, per se, there could be a lot of value between the two countries. You could see a lot of excellent production between the two countries, trade agreements, etc. And I think Trump recognizes that in Mexico, and it needs to come back. We've said for years, Mexico's biggest problem is Mexico. They want to point to everybody else, but it's not. It's Mexico. They've allowed the lawlessness. They've allowed their military to essentially become the cartels.
Their corruption.
There's a ton of corruption. And I'm sure that olive branch was extended. Hey, we will help with the corruption if you start getting this stuff straight, but we want to work together. Also, you think that the Mexican president wants Trump to sit there and go, hey, if you don't want us to secure our borders in a press conference, why is your southern border so secure? Why is it okay for you? Because now he's going to start hitting them in front of his own people in his own country. He's not afraid to do it. You know Trump's not afraid to do it.
Right.
And this guy...
And Trump mentioned their southern border.
Right. And I almost wonder if the Mexican president, when the offer was extended, figured that it would never be accepted a little bit. And when it was accepted, probably had no shit moment. And realized... And now Trump's got him. Because he has him on record saying all this stuff.
Yes.
And if they don't start playing ball, he's just going to go back to, fine, we'll just build the wall, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think one of the things that people miss is when Trump says Mexico is going to pay for this wall, I think what he means in the sense of trade going away, money going away, all this other stuff, it's going to cost them.
Yes.
It may not.
They might not write the check that says for the wall.
It will cost them, and they know that. If he completely canceled the NAFTA agreement, the country would be even in more ruins than it already is. I mean, that's, 45% of their income is through NAFTA for the entire country, and the other 55% is drugs. So, I mean, it's pretty insane.
And human trafficking.
And human trafficking, of course. The coyotes can't be forgotten. So, the process there, I think, with Trump is just like any other negotiator. Hey, here's where we have our upper hand. Here's where we can clean you up. We're not here to intimidate you. We're here to work with you. But don't make me go the hard route, because the only person suffering is going to be you.
And I almost guarantee that he threw Hillary in there, too. Hey, Hillary's going to tell you whatever she wants to hear. You know I'm a businessman. You know I've negotiated this kind of stuff before.
Oh, yes.
So, I mean, but I don't know if he went at him that hardball at first, because I can see Trump being very charismatic and likable. Like BZ just said about the black ministers. Right.
Hey, he's not a bad guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he can be that charismatic person. And I'm wondering if it's some kind of combination of that.
The two. Or very much so, as he got in and started talking to this president realized, like you said, he wasn't a bad guy, and what Trump proposed he saw as beneficial for his nation. And said, well, okay.
There's nothing wrong with working with Mexico. Nothing
at all. At all. And I've always said that. I don't think anyone in this country has...
There's nothing wrong with immigration.
Right, the right way.
The right way.
And I think people feel the same way about trade. Listen, a lot of the stuff that China makes now that we import, Mexico could be making now probably better and safer, and we could import.
Well, and think of all literally, and if you're thinking about the environment, think of all the lesser costs importing something, for example, from Mexico, as opposed to the shipping that takes place in the container traffic, etc., from all the ports in Asia, Europe, etc. That's a massive environmental savings.
And I do want to mention something. The president of Mexico did, and when he was speaking, say that the open discussion he had with Trump acknowledged that there are joint challenges on both sides of the border, which included the flow of weapons and illegal immigrants heading north. This is the president of Mexico that Donald Trump got to admit that there is a stinking problem with the illegal flow of immigrants heading north.
Well, now you know why Nieto is hated. Fox wasn't hated, he was revered. Cedillo wasn't hated, he was revered.
Right, but even so, even so, I don't want to look. I don't want to take away what Trump accomplished today because it's huge. Even if you don't like Trump, the fact that he just became a player on the international stage dealing with a foreign head of state over issues pertaining to trade and immigration and U.S. policy.
Well, what international experience do you have negotiating with blah, blah, blah? It appears he knows what he's doing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But people are listening to Hillary Clinton, who all that she did today was say that you can't learn in one stop in one day in Mexico what I know from all of my years.
But you know what that is, though? That's essentially saying...
But that's what people are going to listen to. They're going to hear that.
Oh, don't look at what he's doing right now, because her campaign said you have to get out there and destroy this right away.
Yeah.
Because this shows a side of him that we didn't want people to see.
That maybe they didn't know existed.
Exactly.
Yep.
Hey, maybe he will be better for our economy. Look at what... How come he showed up in Mexico all of a sudden? When was the last time Hillary thought about going to Mexico?
Yep, and Louisiana.
Louisiana.
And
I'm just
turned
talking
it
about
down.
international.
No, I know, but I'm just saying another place she didn't show up. But
it's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. And how many people, some people are going to listen to Hillary and she's going to say, oh, look at this. And her supporters are going to say, yeah. But how many independents are out there saying, wow?
Question for the two of you.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's when Trump began to actually, air quote, appear presidential when he went to Louisiana?
I think that was the first presidential act.
But,
was that something of a pivotal point?
I agree.
In his career,
I think so.
I think so.
In terms of an act, I agree.
Because the other thing is, honestly, this sounds so weird for me to say. I'm almost not going to say it, but I will. I think it was genuine.
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely believe it was genuine.
Look,
by all
if
accounts,
Obama
Trump has a
went down
big
there,
heart.
that wouldn't have been genuine, and Hillary going down there, that wouldn't have been genuine.
There have been so many accounts where Donald Trump has just randomly done something nice for people. Like, what is it, a couple, like he bought their house?
Yeah.
Like, paid off their mortgage for them. And so, like Donald Trump, there are numerous accounts out there where he is just like actually like a good dude. I don't know. I haven't talked to him. Other than he was at Freedom Fest a couple of years ago, right? Where he, just kind of walked by and his hair waved to us.
But you listen to some of the stories.
But there's stories out there about he's a good dude.
Beaten down in media. Nobody ever talks about it, and he seems like a decent man. He just seems like a hard-nosed businessman.
And he's got a personality, right? He's got
that overt personality.
He does have a showmanship to him.
Right. He most certainly does.
I think if you sat down behind doors with Donald Trump,
totally different animal.
It would be A, correct, absolutely different from his public persona, and B, I bet it would be like sitting down with Joe Biden. You'd actually like the guy.
The one-on-one.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You would like. I think when he's on one-on-one, he's actually likable.
I've actually said the same thing about Obama. I think if you throw politics out the window and you have a one-on-one conversation with Obama about family and kids and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I'd sit down with the man. Absolutely.
I think you would walk away feeling like, again, throw politics out the window because that conversation would not be positive. But I think that you would feel that, hey, at least he has some emotion about the right things. I think he.
I'm not quite willing to concede that.
Oh, see, I would.
I actually think he's a sociopath.
But let's go back to.
I think he has NPD.
I mean Trump. Let's go back to Trump for a little bit, because one of the things that we've been saying now for the last 6 months is, when is he going to start having those presidential moments? When is he going to start tipping that hand? And I had said, I can't remember what show, but I had said it would be late, because he's going to spend the whole time rallying his base. Mm-hmm. And then after the base is rallied, he's going to start trying to cherry pick those independents, which is what he has to do. And maybe some anti-Hillary people who are maybe Democrats. And he's going to do that by showing that he can walk the walk and talk the talk. And now he's starting to do that. You saw it with Louisiana, which I agree, I think was heartfelt. And now you've seen it with Mexico. And you saw it with...
Which is probably just as heartfelt.
But yeah, I really think so.
Yeah.
Because if the man knows business, he knows numbers, and he knows that if we have a strong, positive relationship, it's going to be beneficial for both countries. There's no way around that.
Right.
No way around that. So now, I think here on out, with the exception of the debates, you will start seeing a more presidential Trump.
I just want to see during the debates Trump look at Hillary and go like, "You're a fucking crook and you belong in prison," and walk off.
There's links in our chat room right now at shrmedia.com that from Guccifer 2.0, Pelosi hacked emails. I haven't seen it. I haven't linked in it, but the links are there if you want to check it out. Sackheads vote. We're up against a break. Do we power through to the end? Or do you want to take a break?
Let's take a break.
We'll take a break.
Formatting. It's all about formatting.
It's all about formatting.
Yep.
Formatting
I
and
have some
consistency.
interesting things to point out when we come back.
Oh, okay. I have some interesting things that has nothing to do with politics.
Or wieners.
No, it's actually
it does
has
have
everything
to do
with
exactly
wieners.
Is that why you're wearing a bathrobe today?
Hey,
That's
I
not
like
a
to call it the
bathrobe.
house jacket.
Yeah.
That's not a bathrobe. You're just happy to see me.
We'll be back here on the Sackheads Radio Show live.
Tuck
in the
that
SHR.
thing in already. Seriously.
Idiot network. My stomach.
Your smeckle.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Times are dark. The people are misled by corrupt politicians, lied to by establishment media, and deceived by the false messages of Islam. A nation looking for direction needs a guide. It needs a man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker, SHR Media, Pundit Press Radio, and YouTube through the SHR Media page for a different kind of commentary on the unpleasant blind guy. Because the truth is not always pleasant.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians,
You got a business. That you didn't build that.
a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless and hope to the hopeless. Sackhead Sean,
Dude, I'm not saying coffee is stupid, bro.
Sackhead Clint,
All good friends of ours usually show up drunk.
also starring Sacco as the producer.
I'm a little bit drunk, I'm a little bit drunk, 'cause I'm drinking, drinking, drinking.
They are the Sackheads Radio Show. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on shrmedia.com.
Hey, it's Jersey Joe from Reefer of Common Sense, and we have moved to a new night and time every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on shrmedia.com. You will catch the Reefer of Common Sense uncensored, unfiltered, and only on shrmedia.com.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
under the weather.
Right. So Jersey Joe was under the weather, ill, and now he's under the weather, tropical depression.
Literally.
True.
And so,
Joe, I hope you feel better.
I hope you feel weather better, or something.
I hope you weathered that last storm, and I hope you weather this weather.
I hope you
whether
weather the
Whether or not you want
Whether or
to.
not you want to.
Yes.
All right, before this joke gets any more stormier, listen. You said you had some comments to wrap up Trump because we have 25 minutes and we have Hillary to talk about. So, BZ.
Now I'll tell you what.
BZ's transitioning
This
here.
does involve Hillary.
Oh, well,
so
then
if
please.
you're ready for that, unless you want to,
Oh, by all means.
chat more about.
No, let's transition
Mr.
right to the
Trump.
Hill Dog.
An interesting thing occurred, and the Daily Caller sued the State Department for some documents that they wanted, and a particular judge, federal judge named Leon, basically came back to the State Department and said in a nutshell, State Department, you have 2 weeks to give back to produce documents about the security briefing and training about security of both Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin, or failing that in 2 weeks, they will be deposed by that particular judge. Now, it broke from the Daily Caller. It
Where
said,
would they deport them to? Are we still on immigration?
Yes, we are. How did you know that? This man right here, to your left, my right, are you ready for this? Has a perspicacity that is absolutely unrestrained.
Hey, I got a shot for that perspicality, and it cleared up.
I'm telling you.
I need to file a complaint. I need to file a complaint with the Tuyas because this is becoming
The
unfair.
Tuyas.
What?
The words you both use are. I have to go look them up afterwards. I really want you to stop with that crap.
Stop with the multisyllabicism.
Yeah, seriously, cut it down to a single.
Don't be doing
Double
that.
at most. Double at most. But go on, because I'm sure you'll throw something else at me that I can't friggin' remember.
A federal judge ordered the Department of State on Wednesday, today, to produce for the Daily Caller News Foundation the security training records of former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin, and he wants them within 2 weeks, or face direct deposition of multiple government officials. Well, I'm sure Clinton right now is saying, a deposition? My, we can't have that. And so I'm sure you can appreciate, Mr. Lee, that there is a certain time sensitivity on the issue. U.S. District Court Judge Richard J. Leon. I think that Mr. Judge Leon had best start checking the hubcaps and best start checking the lug nuts on his car.
I would use an auto starter.
That's just a thought.
I would use an auto start.
Yeah.
Like an intern.
Anyway, so this judge tells Department of Justice, DOJ Attorney Jason Lee, representing the State Department, we're looking down the barrel of a presidential election from now in 2 months. Here's what I find amazing. Here's an actual federal judge that has a sense of time and actually knows that politics
is playing a role.
Is actually involved. I find that absolutely
He's not
astounding.
letting them stonewall. And that's a big deal. Now, will most of these government officials just go in and lie their ass off? Of course they will. And then come up with some ridiculous thing about how they really didn't know and they weren't really lying because it wasn't
But
really...
who cares?
Right.
Get them on record and then get the documents that prove otherwise, right?
Right.
Or point out their inconsistencies
And
or
I'm
whatever.
sure the Department of State is going to go the route of, well, with classified documents, we have to make sure that X, Y, and Z is redacted, blah, blah. It's going to take us more time. We know the games that they play when it comes time to...
well, like any good investigator, what do you want to do with a suspect? You want to lock in their statement.
Yep.
That's one of the first things you want to do.
And I agree.
So Daily Caller, what they do is they file a FOIA lawsuit.
Freedom of Information.
Right? After the State Department refused to turn over the records of the security training for Clinton and her top aides, so to speak. So the filing, which went before this Judge Leon, attorneys for the State and Justice Department said that they failed to locate any security briefing documents for Clinton or Abedin. And they also stated the absence of any documents meant that the courses were not completed by the secretary or her aides. It is unclear if Clinton explicitly refused to attend
She was busy.
The security
State
briefings.
Department stuff. Busy.
Hillary Rodham Clinton can't be bothered with little people work like attending security briefings.
And it's about time you realize that.
Well, that's absolutely true. But the lack of training may help explain why Clinton saw that there wasn't any problem with setting up a private server in her New York home to process her private email account.
I
But
would argue with that.
she has a history, however, of skipping security briefings.
Especially when it comes back to bite her in the ass later.
She deliberately skipped a cybersecurity briefing in 2011 and defied national security officials. And this is a classic photograph that I think you guys and everybody in chat and everybody listening now and in the podcast, you'll remember this as soon as I tell you. She continued to use her unsecured BlackBerry cell phone in the confines of a secure office at the State Department. You can, I'm sure, conjure up that very classic photograph of her with her glasses.
Oh yeah,
holding a BlackBerry
with Anthony sending her pictures. Now, here's my belief on this. She knows that if she skips those briefings, yes, it may look bad. However, during, say, an FBI investigation, you can no longer lock in the fact that she intentionally broke federal law because she did not know that she was breaking federal law because she didn't attend those briefings, and she was never held accountable.
So, she wasn't trained. Are you seriously going to go with the I wasn't trained argument?
Yes. That's the argument that they're going to have. And look it, the FBI didn't indict for a reason, right?
Yeah, because they're bullshit.
Right.
No, that's true. It's
it's true. The FBI is bullshit.
No, that's an entirely other thing, and I think there are many, many other machinations that went into this, or into that, with regard to Comey. My God, that's such a separate topic. Anyway, holy crap.
But no, you've seen this with them before, right? The Democrats love to do this. You play dumb, and then you do it.
I don't think they're playing.
Well, no, I think they are in a lot of ways. You know this. There's very, very little they do on that level without it being well designed. They don't make moves through stupidity. Hillary is not a stupid person. She is an evil, vindictive, manipulative
wench
human being.
She's an arrogant and plotting individual, but she's not stupid.
Right.
She's a doo-doo monster.
She is a doo-doo monster. She's a cotton-headed ninny muggins.
This is one of my favorite.
Nice.
A what? What? Wait,
nice.
Rewind that tape.
No, hang on.
I want to hear that.
Yeah.
Rewind that tape.
Cotton-headed ninny muggins.
From the movie Elf.
Such a great movie.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Everyone in the chat room, Ron in the chat room, Gulf Dog saying, not trained a person in high office? Yes. You think they don't miss those trainings on purpose? There are certain things that they miss on purpose so they can't be held accountable for them later. Because once your name's on that line and you were trained and you break that violation, you break that rule, all of a sudden you start going down the road of, say, I don't know, a certain former ex-FBI director.
But there still is that laws out there that she's responsible.
Apparently not, according to the FBI. Well, that's what I mean, though. Nothing.
According to the FBI, listen to your own statement.
I know, but But when you're in cahoots, you know you have that backing you up. Nothing is by mistake with these people. I keep saying that time and again. It is all very well manufactured to the exact way that they want it to be.
Well, the fix was in. The fix was definitely in. I researched 3 particular United States codes that were applicable to this, and maybe this is getting too inside baseball. One of them is 18 U.S.C. 793. That's a specific code. Another one is 18 U.S.C. 1924. Another one is 18 U.S.C. 161 with regard to false statements. And if you look at these, people were trying to say, and Comey was trying to say, that she had no intent. And I said it long ago. These are not crimes of specific intent. These are crimes of general intent, meaning that you do not have to prove intent. Yet Comey said that she didn't intend. Intent has nothing to do with any of these sections whatsoever. At all. None. Zip. Zero. The Z. The null
but we've
set.
never prosecuted it before.
That is true. That is true.
And one of the things that drives me crazy about that is when you say that, all you're doing is giving it a pass. Because
we've never
setting precedent.
So you get to override what the Congress
Yes.
decided?
Shake your microphone a second. There it is. No, it's better now.
It stopped.
It's that cord. I got to swap out that cord tonight. I'll do it after the show, and I apologize for that. But yeah, no, I think as long as you have somebody who is unwilling to prosecute it the first time, then there is no standard there.
Well, I'm going somewhere. I'm going somewhere here tonight, and then I'm going to go somewhere tomorrow when I finish the post that I started before I got here. My favorite paragraph out of this Daily Caller article said this: Judge Leon made it clear that the state can provide the simple clarifications that they sought one of two ways. Either now, in a cooperative manner, I love this, or in a few weeks, in sworn depositions. Take your pick.
Well, and they will. I just think they're going to play Stonewall as long as they can with this. And then, as mainstream media always does, they're going to bury this as much as they can.
It's already buried as much as it can. When you have Hillary Clinton today saying nothing all day, that Trump went down, that you can't learn anything about Trump going down for a few hours down in Mexico, what she and the mainstream media and the American media maggots purposely forgot to say is that Nieto invited her, and she decided of her own not to attend.
Yes.
That was her decision, not to attend. Then she attempts to excoriate him, though she was, and that's purposely all left out. But here's the deal. One of the things that I discovered is I went and I found an article, an op-ed piece in the Wall Street Journal by a particular individual. And essentially what she's saying is the reason people were asking, well, let me ask you, what do you think the reason was for Clinton having a private email server?
So she could surf porn and not get caught.
So she could conduct business that could not be recovered, in her opinion, on a government server and come back to bite her in the ass, hence the bit bleach.
Hence biting in the ass, surfing porn on her server.
And Clint, so your opinion as to why she had a server?
Clearly, she was surfing porn, and
I wanted to lock him into a statement, Sean.
She clearly was surfing bestiality porn, perhaps. I'm wondering, and I don't know, likes big horse. Right, I don't know. Maybe she. You're looking at me like that. Do you know for a fact that she is not into horsey porn? Does anybody know this? I'm alleging it.
You may have hit upon something. Maybe she's been in Mexico before for the donkey shows, she couldn't go back.
I don't know.
I'm just saying.
She got caught in a Tijuana raid.
I'm just saying.
Her nickname was Tijuana Mama.
She can't stick a face.
I shouldn't go there.
Right. That's not a good place to go.
Nope.
But
but here's what I said. Here's what they're finding. The Nexus now is one of the reasons that she bleached all of this.
Well, she bleached all of what? Are we still talking about her ass?
When you have that entire server and then you delete things and then you throw an application or a program on top of it in order to completely scrub it so that it cannot be forensically retrieved.
Wait a second, I thought she just wiped it with a cloth or something.
Well, that's what she said, yes. She is really that doddering. In any event, what they're discovering is it wasn't just a matter of perhaps Benghazi, because I think emails are in there about Benghazi, and I think there's emails in there about Obama, and I think there's going to be the actively classified portions of it. But I think what they're discovering, and this particular individual that I'm going to write about tomorrow is saying that she has information indicating that the reason that she had that is because she was sending and receiving emails about the Clinton Foundation on a secretary on a federal government sanctioned, so to speak, server for her, not doing government business, but doing private Clinton Foundation business, and we need to see all of those emails.
Well, and I agree with that. I also wonder if on those emails weren't, like you said, conversations about Obama specific to Benghazi.
Or ordering a hit.
Ordering a hit. Another would shock me. But more specifically, hey, spoke to the president, this is the story we're going to go with in order to make Benghazi look nice, or blah, 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 blah. That would essentially identify both of them as being culpable in the cover-up versus now where it's all...
Or we know that she didn't like Obama, and they weren't really besties for a while, right? So I wonder if there's derogatory emails.
Yes. Oh, yes.
On there.
Not entirely impossible.
Racially charged emails.
But see, this brings up the question again.
Could very well be.
Comey and the FBI allegedly had access to all of these emails. Then more were found after the investigation, just last week.
Yes.
How could that be?
15,000 more, for example.
How can that be?
It's
the FBI! How could they not conduct a thorough and complete exhaustive investigation?
So that also means that the FBI had access and or saw the emails between Hillary and other persons and the Clinton Foundation and made no mention of it whatsoever. If that's not a conflict of interest between the government and the Clinton Foundation, that she's conducting her business with the Clinton Foundation over a state server authorized by the federal government or unauthorized, as it were.
Whichever way.
That is the epitome of corruption.
If that's not the epitome of hyperbole.
If somebody wrote a biography of Hillary Clinton, would it be the unauthorized server strikeout biography of Hillary Clinton?
The redacted history of Hillary Clinton. It's one of my favorite lines from the... every time we talk about the FBI, one of the favorite lines from Die Hard comes to mind. Great movie. But you ask for a miracle, Theo, I give you the FBI. It's just, I mean, literally, they know what can be happened if they found cocking up, and they do it all the time. And they know it always comes out. That's the thing about the FBI. I don't think that anyone in the FBI has ever gotten away with anything because it's always come out, as it should. And I think you're right. I think it'll eventually come out that they knew and did nothing about it because, the scope of our investigation was specific classified documents being transmitted over this private server that had government information. It had nothing to do with the Clinton Foundation. So our warrant did not allow us to go into those emails.
Could you imagine if cops operated that way? Right? Like, the scope of this traffic stop was to write a ticket. Well, I couldn't ask about the dead hooker in the backseat.
Exactly. And you could start getting into the plain view doctrine. Hey, did you all of a sudden read emails while you were searching for something else that came up? And why wasn't that brought to light? That's right. Well, I think you're going to see a combination of all of this, to be completely honest with you. I think you're going to see maybe some negative statements about Obama, some discussion about what Obama and Hill Dog did in fact know about Benghazi as it was going on and the culpability of covering it up and lying to the American public. And I bet you there's the mention of the election during the cover-up to actually pinpoint the fact of, hey, this was done for political expedience and we will now have proof. We have 7 minutes left. Then there is the classified after-the-fact documents, Clint, that you were so excited to talk about earlier today.
Yeah, where there's information that came out that even after she left office as Secretary of State,
only the Hill Dog,
she was sending classified information.
Still sending classified information.
What the hell? It's no longer classified because she's not Secretary of State anymore. It's just conversation for her, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, no.
Well, but again, it goes to show you that that no rules apply to Hillary Clinton, and we've talked about this time and again. I mean, look, it's been 100 and something days since she's had a last real press conference, if not longer.
Yeah,
yes.
Where she's taking questions.
She says she's had a press conference. Here was her press conference. She sat at a table in a private venue with two pre-hand-picked persons who lobbed her softballs. Well, that was a press conference.
Not in front of a junket full of press asking her.
Private table.
She doesn't want to hear these questions because it will make her look bad. She will then be put on record in some way, shape, or form, and it could come back to bite her in the ass.
You keep saying that. What is this obsession with biting Hillary Clinton's ass?
Ask Huma. Now, I believe that
Good comeback.
I believe that there is so much that is about to be dropped on this election in regards to Hillary. We all know that Assange is going to, and WikiLeaks is going to drop more in the next month or so. It's already been hinted at from Julian Assange that he has more damning evidence that will come out.
There was an article today about him speaking not generally but very specifically about Hillary Clinton and how she's bad, not just for the United States but for the rest of the world. He's specifically pointing and targeting her.
Right. So you have that coming down. I really think at this point that she is going to be so behind closed doors and only speaking when she absolutely has to and not taking any more questions from here to November and hope that her numbers carry, because
I don't think they will.
I don't think they will either, but this is they don't have much else for a plan, right? Because when you know everything is about to come crumbling down,
yeah,
that you don't want to even feed into that. So if you answer this question now about this topic, and 3 weeks from now we get an email from WikiLeaks that completely proves you to be a liar yet again.
Yeah. You can't tell the truth because it's bad. You can't lie because it's bad. So we're not going to say anything, and we're going to hope Trump says something stupid.
That's their hope now.
That we can point to.
And I really believe that is their strategy going here on out. Is we can't put her out there. We can't take that chance of that one soundbite.
And you know, the Trump people are like, don't fucking say anything stupid.
And Golf Dog just brought up a great point in the chat room, and I believe the answer is yes. I want to ask you guys your opinion. I mean, he said, will she even debate?
Yes, I think she will debate.
She'll debate.
And another note that I should like to throw in here. If Trump is smart, if he has people that are actually managing him properly, he'll also insist on this. Bring me Stein and bring me Johnson in that debate. Throw them in there too.
Yep.
Because they can only remove votes. I throw out to the two of you and to Chat and everybody else. Those two persons have the potentiality of removing votes from whom?
Hillary Clinton.
Thank you very much.
They will affect the Bernie supporters.
Yeah, but now Johnson can pull some of the Trump votes.
Right.
Not many, I don't believe.
But not as much as Hillary.
Right. And, you know, I'm just lucky, or at least we're lucky as a whole, that Hoomer got rid of Weiner, and that way if Johnson is in this next press conference, there's no Johnson-Weiner fight going on.
No,
right,
thank
yeah.
God.
You know, you can have, and Hillary might have searched that on her private email, just to kind of see what that matchup would look like. And it looked kind of like a sword fight. But, yeah, you don't want Johnson v. Weiner at all. And who knows, but Huma, as part of Weiner's penance, may want Johnson and Weiner in the same room together.
What does he mean by that, Sean? Explain it to me.
So you mean they would want Johnson and Weiner in the same room going head-to-head?
Right, yeah, head-to-head. Head-to-head.
Oh, well.
I mean, look, maybe they can give her some tips.
Right, exactly.
Right, that's very, very true. I mean, they definitely would have an eye.
They both would have skin in the game at that point.
That's right, exactly. My first question would be Helmet or Anteater?
Oh, well, I don't know if that's what they'll name their teams when they're arguing and going and bumping heads.
Right. Helmet, like the general, the former military guy.
Right.
Oh, yeah, you could bring him
Helmet
in too.
Schmidt. Exactly.
Yeah. Helmet Schmidt.
Right. Former German Chancellor. What happened to Sean?
I don't know. That's actually history.
I know. It just made me laugh. The only thing would be better if Helmet and Dick Armey showed up. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming to the end of the show.
Those two together could be a Dick Army.
Oh, my God. You see all the guys are in the other room? We have Anthony Weiner, Dick Armey, Helmet Schmidt. I mean, it's a little sort
Johnson.
Johnson's in there talking around.
Dick Trickle.
Dick Trickle is there for entertainment. We don't even know how this stuff happened. It was really nice of Jimmy Dean Sausage to host this party.
Yeah, no kidding. You can't write this stuff.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Everybody was getting flu shots. Nurse was going around. Just a little prick. It's great.
This week's Sausage Party was brought to you by Jimmy Dean Breakfast Sausage.
SHR Media, bringing maturity to your computer.
Hey, if you can't laugh about this stuff, there's no point of waking up in the morning. That's what I say.
If you can't laugh about this stuff, turn us off.
That's why you guys are the best in late night radio.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
That's absolutely why.
I appreciate that. Folks, that's it for the Sackheads Radio Show this Wednesday, August 31st, 2016. The last show we will do in August.
Of 2016.
Of 2016, that's
yeah,
right.
Last show. We didn't even get to the fact that the SETI project got a hit from a STAR system.
We didn't get to that.
The Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence actually got a hit.
There's two quick things I do want to mention.
It wasn't pointed at the White House. Go ahead.
Kim Jong-un, again, executed 2 high-ranking senior officials with an anti-aircraft gun.
Because why not?
Because why not?
Right? Hello.
Hello.
We shoot him. We're going to shoot him with a rifle? No, anti-aircraft gun. Wait, what?
And also, go to YouTube. Not safe for work. Go to YouTube. Search British guy Tourette's 3 blind mice. There's a guy with Tourette's in Britain who videotaped himself reading 3 blind mice. It is absolutely amazing for comedy. He did it to be funny. He knew it would be funny, and he's making fun of himself, and it's absolutely great. Folks, that's it for the Sackheads Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining us this Wednesday evening. We'll be back next Wednesday, same time, 8 p.m. Pacific.
Same bat station, same bat channel.
Starting off tomorrow with the Reverb Common Sense, weather permitting, and going through with all the great shows on SHR Media. Make sure you check out the exceptional conservative himself, Ken McClinton, an outstanding show. Go to Spreaker, download every single show he's ever done. Listen, learn. We love Ken to death. High Plains Pundit, our dear friend in yeah, that's it. Our dear friend in media, High Plains Pundit, the amazing Dan Butcher and family doing a great job over there. We will see you next Wednesday evening.
Sackheads Radio, and listen, there are no people better on the air to give you the best in conservative talk than Sackhead Sean and Sackhead Clint. And we're working on the immigration papers for a certain other guy who happens to work here too. For those who are tuning in around the world to the best in late night conservative talk, Sackheads Radio.
Radio.
The best late night conservative talk show in America. And in this web was a large, I'm pretty sure it was the biggest spider I've ever seen.